Hello, and welcome to an overview of the theories of child development and an introduction to the central concepts surrounding child development. The quotation on this slide, "Heredity deals you the cards, environment plays them," is a metaphorical description of how nature and nurture interact. It's attributed to the Emeritus Professor of Psychology, Charles Brewer, of Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, as cited in the reference below. Common concepts in learning about development are nature and nurture. Nature is inherited genetic characteristics and tendencies. Nurture refers to the environmental conditions that surround a person. For example, nature is people's height, weight, and hair color. Nurture is actions, political views, and clothing designed for boys or girls. One thing missing in the quote is that the interaction between nature and nurture goes both ways. Certain characteristics inherited through nature or genes and the way those genes or characteristics are expressed can change depending on children's environments. Children's developmental outcomes evolve through the interaction between their genes and the environment, not solely by one another. When we think about development, we also need to think about the difference between universality and diversity. Universality describes developmental changes and sequences that occur in all humans. Diversity refers to developmental changes that are individual. For example, what is universal is what most children learn to do, like sit, walk, and run in that order. Examples of diversity in development are that parents in hunter-gatherer families in Papua New Guinea carry infants until they can walk, while parents in other cultures may put infants down and encourage them to crawl. In Papua New Guinea, carrying infants can protect them from the predators in the wild. Children in Papua New Guinea develop walking skills at the same rate as infants who crawled in other cultures. Research on child development tends to look at group averages for skills, such as the age when children usually speak first words. Yet children can develop very differently from one another. For example, this graph shows the number of words in children's productive vocabularies, or the words they can say at different ages. The red line shows that the average child says about 300 words by 24 months old, and nearly 600 words by 30 months old. In contrast, the green line shows that the children in the 90th percentile have nearly 700 words in their productive vocabularies at 30 months old. The blue line shows that children in the 10th percentile only have about 300 words in their vocabularies at 20 months old. This means that children in the 90th percentile, or those who can speak 700 words, have more than double the amount of words that children in the 10th percentile do. Both nature and nurture can contribute to individual differences in development. For example, the development of a child who is born blind, for genetics, can vary depending on the way that the family adapts the home, that would be environment. It is important to understand that when children are not reaching developmental milestones, they could benefit from additional resources and services. Knowledge of child development is essential to identify atypical patterns of development. Resources like the Head Start Early Learning's Outcomes Framework or those provided by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are useful to determine typical developmental stages at various ages. In general, if you notice something atypical about a child's development, you should pay attention to patterns and take careful notes rather than jumping to conclusions. You can communicate with parents and other staff members to verify their observations and to work together to understand the child's development. It is not your job to diagnose specific developmental issues, but rather identify developmental patterns. You should invite parents to connect to early intervention or special education services so a professional can do a more detailed assessment based on the concerns. The earlier the identification of a developmental delay, the greater the potential benefit of the service to the child and the family. Children's development is fundamentally interconnected because skills connect to each other. Even though this course presents the different domains of development as they are in the Head Start Early Learning Outcomes framework, development in each of these domains connects to the development in other domains. For example, this course focuses extensively on language development. However, research says that children learn language through social relationships, which is the social and emotional development domain. Language skills allow children to count, which is the cognition domain, and describe what they see, which is the perceptual, motor, and physical development domain. Language also allows children to learn the rules to regulate their behavior, and this is the approaches to learning domain. This slide contains the video Brushing Teeth Together. It features preschoolers brushing their teeth together in an early learning setting, and it's about 1 minute long. Think about these questions as you watch the video. What domains of development do you see, and how do they connect? Go ahead and pause and come back when you have finished watching the video. So what domains of development did you see, and what are ways they can connect? In this video, examples of connected developmental domains are perceptual, motor, and physical. There's hygiene, fine motor, hand coordination, and grasping. There's approaches to learning, reminders of the steps in the routine, and asking such questions as, what do we do next? There's evidence of the social and emotional domain, where there's relationships with adults and other children, requesting help and answers from adults, engaging other children in brief moments of play while brushing teeth. One example of connected development is language and motor skills. The children are listening to instructions to pick up and use their toothbrush. The active learner. It's important to note that children are active agents in their environment. They are not passive beings waiting to be taught. They are explorers and scientists who act on their world to learn. In other words, children's environments do affect them, but the opposite is also true. Children affect the environment. For example, when young children babble, they're practicing making noises. They often imitate sounds that they hear other people make, and they will use babbling to elicit reactions from the adults around them. Similarly, when children drop objects from their high chair, they're exploring their world. Does the object make a noise when it falls? Can I still see it when it falls? Will someone pick it up and give it to me again? Child development is a complex process that is influenced by experience, culture, and individual differences. While you watch this video, think about where you see these common developmental concepts: nature and nurture, universality and diversity, individual differences, and active learning. Go ahead and press pause, and we'll rejoin once you have completed watching the video. Now, watch a video depicting the first year of life of 4 babies from 4 different places. Again, pause and rejoin when you're ready. So what were some examples of common developmental issues? Nature and nurture, universality and diversity, individual differences, and active learning. Nature and nurture. Nature is the differences in infant skin colors and hair, and their interaction with animals is an example of nurture. For universality and diversity, the crawling is universal, but laying on their backs or being held is an example of diversity. Individual differences. One infant appears to stand well before the others. Active learning, they're interacting with their environment, grabbing onto the goats, or watching the water in the shower. So let's talk for a moment about the theories of development. Many scientists and philosophers have developed theories of child development. Theories gain and lose popularity, so many theories become outdated over time. Three theorists who have made a big impact on the world of child development and whose theories are still used and cited in some capacity are Jean Piaget, Lev Vygotsky, and Yuri BRONFENBRENNER. Jean Piaget believed that children construct their knowledge about the world by forming ideas, testing them, and refining their ideas based on their experiences. Piaget's view of cognitive development in early childhood can be broadly characterized by 4 stages: sensorimotor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. Sensorimotor, according to Piaget, children in this stage are from birth to age 2. In this stage, children learn to coordinate their own actions with objects in the physical world. The biggest accomplishment in this stage is understanding object permanence, the idea that objects still exists even when a person can't see it. In the pre-operational stage, it lasts from about when children are ages 2 through 7. In this stage, children engage in symbolic play and learn to manipulate objects as symbols. Although they do not yet understand concrete logic, they use pretend play to practice using symbols. Piaget noted that children in this stage of cognitive development are egocentric and have a difficult time understanding that people have different beliefs and opinions. In the concrete operational stage, children are about ages 7 to 11. This stage is characterized by children's increasing ability to think logically, though some children still have trouble understanding abstract or hypothetical concepts. In the formal operational stage, which is from about age 12 through puberty and into early adulthood until about age 20. In this stage, children become much more sophisticated in their ability to use logic and deductive reasoning. Lev Vygotsky emphasized the importance of relationships and mentorship in children's learning and development. He categorized children's knowledge in 3 circles. Things children are capable of doing by themselves is in the inner circle. Things that children are not yet capable of doing is the outer circle. And a middle zone of things that children can do or learn with others with their help is the middle circle. He called this middle circle the zone of proximal development. Older or more capable people can help children acquire new skills by pushing them beyond their natural boundaries into the zone of proximal development to expand the repertoire of knowledge. When adults help children acquire new skills in this way, it's called scaffolding. Just as metal or wooden scaffolding supports a building under construction, conceptual scaffolding by adults can support children as they learn new things. Yuri BRONFENBRENNER recognized that children develop within the context of their environments, and that interaction between children and their environment is bidirectional. That is, children act on their environments and environments shape children. His theory, and others like his, also propose that individuals are not living in an isolated world, but instead in a broad system of intimate relationships with family, school, community, and society. It's important to remember that children develop within environments that include many contexts, interactions, and individuals, and that all of this is happening in the context of that time. As BRONFENBRENNER indicates, the most important influential context on child development is the microsystem, which includes the child's family. Additional contexts influence the child and family directly and indirectly. BRONFENBRENNER'S biological model talks about the children context on 4 levels: the microsystem, the mesosystem, the exosystem, and the macrosystem. The model of child development shows children as nested within these contexts. The microsystem is the innermost level of the environment. This is the context that children spend a lot of time in, engaging in activities and interactions. The components of the microsystem have direct effects on children. The mesosystem is the relationship between microsystems. Since children spend time in more than one microsystem, the relationships among elements in the microsystem are also important. For example, parent-child interactions in the microsystem will affect teacher-parent interactions in the mesosystem. The exosystem is context in which children live that have important indirect influences on their development. For example, the flexibility of a parent's workplace will determine the work schedule, paid time off, sick leave, maternity leave, and paternity leave, all of which affect the child. The macrosystem is the outermost model of the bioecological model and contains the broad beliefs and attitudes of a larger society or group. These broad beliefs and attitudes affect children. For example, different countries have different views about quality childcare, and these views, expressed in the form of policies and programs, determine what type of care young children receive. Note that these ideals may not be common to all societies, but do affect a child growing up within that society. BRONFENBRENNER'S model continues to influence education today as educators consider parent engagement in children's learning, schedule parent-teacher conferences, and make connections in communities. So to summarize and conclude this session, we have 3 review questions. What are some core concepts in child development? Describe a child's actions or behavior that relate to one of the core issues in this section. And describe one of the theories of child development. How do you see this theory influencing your future work in a program? You will answer these questions in the journal section of Blackboard. The journal questions and further directions are also found in the week by week on Blackboard.